had a factory. He was driven around by a chauffeur because he didn't know how to drive. He had a chauffeur, and he was doing very well. I think at that time he was about a little more than 30, not much more. And he went to Brooklyn, the chauffeur's driving around Brooklyn, and he sees all the sights, including all the girls, and he noticed this young girl sitting on a stoop, the steps, they call that the stoop, sitting on a stoop with other people talking, and he told the chauffeur to stop. And according to him, he fell in love with her immediately, just looking at her. So the chauffeur stopped, and he went out of the car, and he said to her, my name is Sam Gorowitz, and
you said it in Yiddish, or
he only knew Yiddish. He learned very little English all through his life.
Right.
And he said, I have a factory, and this is my car, my chauffeur, and she thought he was too old. He was in the early 30s, and she was about 17 or so. He says, but I would really like to meet your family if you have a family living here. So she says, well, I live with my sister and her husband in Brooklyn. So he says, could I meet them? So she said, well, we want to meet them, come up. So I went up, met them, and he said, Dad, I saw your sister, and I would like her to be my wife.
The sister?
So, and she confirms this is exactly what happened.
Was she like, is this man crazy? Like...
That's what he was. I'm telling you what he told me, and my mother confirmed it.
What was her reaction to all that?
Well, in those days, I wasn't there, of course, I don't know, and I never saw much love between them. And so I assume her reaction was, well, very soon I'll need a husband, and he has a factory, and he's,
a chauffeur.
A chauffeur, and he's a little heavy, had a big belly, because at that time that was a proof that he was successful. And so, and he was Jewish. And so, of course, she came out of off a farm.
Right.
She never went to school past third grade or so. But she learned how to read and write. She would read and write. Talk, speak. Spoke very well. According to them, they said, well, they looked out the window, I guess, and saw the car and the chauffeur, but I don't know, he didn't tell me that. But at any rate, it came about. They agreed. I don't know if it was that day or they came again or what. They agreed, and within a month or two they were married. Well, what else was there to do? They got married, and I don't know where they lived, but it was in Manhattan somewhere. And within a very short time, he lost everything. It must have been the beginning of the Depression. It seems he had bought a load of material. He called it Blue Serge. Blue Serge. That's the name still sticks in my mind. He bought bolts and bolts and bolts. Every cent he had, he invested in Blue Serge because everybody was talking Blue Serge, right? And nobody, when the time came that he had it made into caps, nobody wanted Blue Serge. And he owed money on the material and everything. Went absolutely broke. And so he lived in Brooklyn for a while, but my mother never recovered from this. She always hated him for that. That here she thought she was marrying somebody well-to-do, and which is enough to make for a good marriage in those days. And I guess maybe even these days, but probably not. They got married, and then the kids came, the depression got worse, and the situation got worse. Oh yes, a year or two after they got married, it was so bad they moved out to where her father had his farm, and where most of her brothers and sisters had settled, Freehold, New Jersey. And they didn't know what to do. They were making caps out of Freehold. So one of her sisters, older sisters, not the one that arranged the marriage with him, but an older sister, her husband and my father decided to become peddlers, which means they got a horse and wagon. How they got it, paid for it, I don't know. And they used to fill it up with dry goods and stuff and pots and pans, and go from town to town and farm to farm selling these things. And then they got a living out in Jersey. I remember the house when I was a child that we lived in. Not that well, but I remember where I used to take a bath in a metal tub outside. That lasted some time. And while he was there, they started doing all right, So he bought.
Were you already? So you were born in New York City, but then you lived in Freehold?
I was born. No. What I understand is, I was born when my mother had been in New York with him for a visit or free time, and they went to a New York hospital.
But the family was living in Freehold?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Right. But so I was born on 3rd or 4th Street, somewhere back.
Okay.
So they were partners, and they, for some reason, broke up, the partners. And his partner, who was my mother's brother-in-law, yes, right. He was my father's partner,
Right.
and they were very amicably working together. Then when they broke up, it was amicable. They had accumulated some money, and did well, and they weren't going to be partners anymore for some reason. So the brother-in-law bought or set up some sort of a little grocery store in Trenton, New Jersey, and my father bought a truck and was peddling caps and stuff around Jersey and eking out a living. They continued living where they were, and her sister moved to Trenton. Her sister was the mother of Saul Linowitz. You see, in fact, my mother delivered Saul Linowitz. She actually birthed him. That's the end of that story. I mean, as I considered my father's story, because after that it was the family story. My personal family.
Charlie's the oldest, and you're the second one, right?
Well, I was the third. The first one died.
Phyllis's?
No, the first one died. Then my brother was born, and 3 years later, after my brother
died in childbirth?
What?
Did the first one die in childbirth?
No. I don't know. I don't think it was. It wasn't childbirth.
Okay.
It was a short time he was here, baby.
Okay.
But that is, then it became a family story.